Hi, welcome back to OT in the Real World. I'm Lauren, an OTA. This is Kim, an OTR. And today we're going to be talking about positioning.
Yeah, so we get a lot of handwriting questions, and the first thing I might take a look at when I'm looking at a student doing their handwriting is the way that they're seated. So obviously this is not ideal, right? We want a student to be sitting upright with the 90-90, so 90 degrees in the hips and about 90 degrees in the knees. One thing that, like in the schools, we have pretty much one-size-fits-all chairs, and that's far less than ideal. So with a lot of our little students, I see a lot of dangling legs, and I cannot emphasize this enough, how important it is for the feet to be firmly planted on the ground for handwriting. It helps build and just stack up a nice base of support for the trunk, which will then flow out to the arms. So one way to adapt these one-size-fits-all chairs is to take our duck-wrapped phone books that we did in another episode and just stack them up until they're the right height for the student. This is actually a little too high for Lauren, but you get the idea here. I like the phone books too because they're heavy and they're a little less easy for the students to kick, which they inevitably do. So when they're seated at the table and they're writing, if they are leaning on one side and they're doing their writing, instead of nagging them constantly about sit up, one thing I can say is to use your helper hand, and when they hear that cue and they bring that helper hand down, it just kind of naturally helps them to sit up. And also actually facing with their face and hips squarely.
Right, I'm on the end. I'm doing it on the side so you guys can see, but you know, we want to look. It's gonna look like this.
That was a nice illustration of that point, though. These are cushions, wiggle cushions, move and sit cushions. This can be used as a postural support. They have other uses, which we'll talk about in a minute, but in order to support the posture, you would put it on the chair like this. At this angle, you're tilting the pelvis into the ideal postural position for nice alignment. So you can also use it in the back of the chair if a student's kind of small or they're slouching back. It kind of gives them something to just feel against their back and help them sit upright.
And this way as well, right, Kim?
Yeah, so this does not stack you into ideal posture, but when we talk about wiggling,
if they're like...
Oh, true. So with our smaller students that are sliding out of their chair, you're right. That is a nice way to block them from falling out.
Then they're stuck.
Then they're stuck in the chair.
Then they're stuck in the right position.
So with the wiggle cushions, there are two sides usually, a bumpy side and a flat side. The bumpy side gives some extra tactile support or tactile feedback. If they don't like it, you can just flip it so that they can sit on the smooth side. This one just obviously just goes right on the chair, and then this one we already talked about the different angles.
Would you say this one's too filled up?
Exactly. So I like the way that this one is filled because when you put some weight on it, then it's going to get you into a nice, I don't know, it's going to probably feel good and just the right amount of wiggling. There's not really a right and a wrong answer, but eyeballing this one is really overfilled. So if you're sitting on it, you're going to do a lot of wiggling. That may be what your student needs, but if what we're usually going after is a little bit of trunk movement, so you're working those muscles, you're getting some wiggling, and you're staying put. This may be just a little too overfilled, and you might see your student falling out of the chair. Yeah. So really, there's a lot of preference involved in these two options, and you have to play around with how much air is in them, but there's no right or really wrong way to use them. One thing you can do is also, sometimes I put them on the chair. If you have wiggly feet, this might solve the problem. It's not wrong to do that. And you'll notice on this chair also we have some theraband. It's just looped and tied around the chair. It's nice so that a student can sit there and kick and wiggle their feet if they need to. They can put their feet inside. Just be careful and watch out for them when they do stand up, that they remember that their feet are in there.
That's a good one.
Something I would do. We can talk more about other options for wigglers later, but we just wanted to talk about how important it is to be sitting in the right position to do your best handwriting.
And if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the comments. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Thanks again, guys.